Hello, hello. My name is Allison Hill, and I'm a senior data scientist at IBM on the AI strategy and innovation team. Before that, I was the product manager for data science communication at our studio, and I was there for about 3 years. And in that time, at our studio, I got really, really good at building and deploying websites. And some of my happiest deploys were using Netlify. And so I was excited that yesterday on December 1st, 2021, I saw that Netlify was offering a new challenge where they're offering $150 if you build and deploy a website, kind of dusting off an old domain, but the secret is that they'll also accept new domains as well. And if you submit it to dusty.domains. So I thought, I really love this challenge from Netlify, and I thought it would be a really fun way for folks to be able to start making their own personal websites, professional websites, in kind of a low-key, no-pressure way, and also make some money for charity along the way as you're learning. So let's get to it. Today, I wanted to show how to embed a postcards page into a Distill website. So in my previous video, I showed how to make a simple postcards single page HTML and deploy it. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to turn off my notifications. There we go. All right. Sharing the screen. Okay, so I'm going to use my same materials that I used for my previous video, which were from a workshop that I gave. I have it on my website, organized under talks. If you scroll down, it's still on the first page. It was for our Studio Global earlier this year in January. And I called it Introduce Yourself Online. It was a special workshop for our Studio Global diversity scholars to be able to help them to create an online presence, an online footprint. So here's the materials for the website. If you go to materials, I'm going to be following along with the YR section. I'm going to expand out this page so I can make sure that I follow all the right steps. And now I actually haven't used Distill since I'm on a new computer. So we'll see how this goes. So prerequisites, you're going to have to make sure that you have the Distill package installed from CRAN. So I'm going to open up our studio. There we go. Okay, and this is still Charlene the Emu's postcard that I made from yesterday. So I'm going to install the Distill package. All right, and then just make sure that it installed properly. Cool. I'm going to restart my session, clear things out, and then I'm going to go back to my own instructions to make sure that I follow them. Yeah, restart your R session. Good job, Allison. So the next step that I think is a very important part of your workflow is to go ahead and start with GitHub. This makes it really easy to work with Netlify as well. So I'm going to go to github.com, and I'm going to use this little green button over here to do a new repository. And I'm going to call this one O2 postcard Distill. I'm going to leave my description open. I am going to add a README, important step. And mine is set up to set the default branch to be main. You can change this in your GitHub settings, and you may want to so that it's not master anymore, in case you had the older setting. So now I've created just an empty repository. It's just sitting there on my GitHub. There's nothing in it, and I'm going to go to this little green code button. I'm in HTTPS. I've followed the instructions from Happy Get with R very carefully to make sure I set everything up correctly on my computer. And I'm going to hit that little copy button. So I've copied the location of the actual remote repository. I go back over to our studio and do File, New Project. Do not save. Oh, I should change that setting. Yes. Never save your current workspace. All right, version control, Git. And then I'm going to paste in that repository URL. So the project directory name is going to be O2 postcard Distill. I'm going to set it up in my DS projects folder, and I'm just going to go ahead and create the new project. Okay, cool. So now I've cloned the actual repository, but remember, there's nothing in there. And if we go over to my Git pane in our studio, there's some things that were created by our studio because I wanted to create a new project. So this .rproj file is added, and then it also adds a git ignore for me. That's a little bit smart. Not too smart for Distill, but it's good. Okay, so we've cloned the GitHub repo. I tell you in my instructions here to go ahead and commit and push, but we don't necessarily have to. Create a new Distill site. So we know that I can load the Distill library, and then I tell you to use this command here to start with a simple website. So I'm going to follow my own instructions because I haven't done this in a while. And if you're curious about the story of how this kind of thing came to be, I will definitely tell that to you when we're waiting on a Netlify build. Because if you watch my video from yesterday, my second build took quite some time. Okay, I'm actually not going to use the GH pages true, so I'm going to erase that because we're not using GitHub pages, we're going to use Netlify. So this is creating the website in the directory that I'm inside, and I'm titling it Introduce Yourself Online Distill. Maybe I'll call it 12 Days Distill. All right, cool. So what it did is you can see after I clicked enter from that create website. Ooh, a lot of gobbledygook there. Oh, a lot. Okay, so you can see that it tells you a little bit about what it did. Creating my website directory, it created a file called _site.yaml, which you can see right here. Let's open it up. So this is like a configuration file for your whole site. You can see that it has like the site title, a little description. The output directory is _site. This is really an important thing to remember. And you can see that there's this folder here, _site. So if you open that up, that's actually the rendered site. That's actually the real HTML files that you would be wanting to deploy onto Netlify. All of the other stuff in here is actually source files. And you can kind of take it or leave it. We're going to put it into GitHub, but Netlify isn't going to use it because Netlify doesn't know what to do about R or R Markdown. It doesn't know what to do with the .rmd file. You can also see that there's some navbar configurations here. So this is what a Distill site gives you. And it also has an about page and an index.rmd page. So I'm going to open up those two real quick. So these are both just simple .rmd files. So if you're used to R Markdown, these should be pretty familiar. YAML, text and code below. So that's the index, and here's the about. Pretty simple stuff. All right. And then if you see down below, it says output created _site. All right, let me go back to my own instructions again. So in my instructions, I talk about building the site. So you might be wondering, where on earth is this actual site? Where is it? How do I see it locally? I do tell you to please close the RStudio IDE and reopen it. I'm going to do that because that's very wise. And I was very smart to do that. All right, so actually I'm going to commit everything first, because I know exactly what I was thinking when I wrote up those instructions. All right, I'm going to commit all of that. First site, yes. I realized that looked a little like a chaotic commit message, a little bit too more excited than I actually feel, but all right, close that. And then I'm going to close the actual project and reopen it. Documents, these projects, and oh gosh, let me get back to there. There we go. That's the same view. Okay, so I'm going to open up O2 postcard Distill again, and let's see what I think I was trying to demonstrate for you. So go over to the Get pane. Aha, this is what happened. So this R project file updated, and if we look at the diff, you can see that build type website is now there. So before, because I created it from a GitHub repository, RStudio wasn't recognizing that this was a website file or website directory project, because I had created it from GitHub when there was nothing in it, and then I added the Distill site later. But what you want to do is be able to close it and reopen it so that the R project file updates, because now the rproj file is smart. Now it's saying, oh, I detect that you want to build a Distill website in here. So that gives you access to this new build tab right here next to Git. So let's go to that and then click build website. Aha. So now you can build the website. This is the local preview. As I usually like to do, I like to open in browser as well. So you can just kind of see it in a real browser window. Sometimes the RStudio local viewer is a little bit different than what you'd see deployed. It has a little bit of an older browser attached to it. So this is pretty simple. There's a home page. This is actually populated by the index.rmd file. And then there's an about page. That was just about.rmd. Let's go back to my instructions because they're good. All right. So that's the website, but we haven't built the postcard yet. And yesterday I built this site. Let's see, what did I call it? Upbeat Netlify.app. Yes. This is what I built yesterday. So this is a simple postcard site, so not within a Distill site. But then at the end of that, that video, I showed a few examples of a postcards page embedded inside of a Distill site. So I'm going to show you a few right now. So Ted Ladaris has one. So here, this is a postcard inside of a Distill site. So it's like it's a postcard, but it's trapped inside of a Distill site. So you still have the navigation, you still have your ability to have a search bar, but you can actually have this kind of a format here, which wasn't possible before in the Distill package. The Distill package previously didn't have a way to do this, but this time last year we enabled it because Allison was developing a workshop for our Studio Global for our diversity scholars, and I came to JJ Allaire, my co-author on the Distill package, and I was like, this has to be easier. And the postcards package had just come out. It was developed by Sean Cross. And I said, look at this package. It creates a beautiful single page HTML from a single rmarkdown file. Like, is there any way that we could just push that HTML output inside of a Distill site instead of, having a separate page for your landing page, your postcard, and then having your Distill site? I wanted it just to be embedded within inside of the site so that somebody could just have a single page like Ted has here that allows people to kind of get like a little bit of an overview for them. And I saw a lot of people actually already using Distill like this kind of in the wild in the community. And people were doing some, kind of raw HTML to be able to get exactly this. And I thought this would just make it a lot more accessible for people, a lot more approachable for a person to be able to make a personal website. And so JJ said, I agree, and I'll do it. And he did it within a Saturday. And he got back to me and we were able to teach the workshop. And it's been actually a really popular feature, I think, among community members and especially early professionals and educators to be able to help people make simple websites about themselves. So you can see that a bare bones Distill site doesn't have something like that. You would have to kind of fit yourself into the mold of what these .rmd files give you. Oops. So that's what we're going to do. So add a postcard. So the same function that I used yesterday to build a single postcards page, I'm now going to add here. And I tell you in these instructions, delete your about.rmd. Trust me. I'm going to trust myself from last year, and I'm going to do exactly that. So I'm going to close this out. I'm going to go back to my files, and I'm going to delete the about.rmd. Past Allison, I hope you were right. Confirm delete. Okay. And then I'm going to commit and push that. Oh, and it looks like there's a search JSON that was added too. Delete about. And then it's a website I can build now. Yay. Site has search. Okay. Okay, so now I'm starting with a clean get pane so you can see everything that I'm doing. All right, so let's go back to Allison's very wise instructions. We'll create a new one with the postcards package. So I'm going to copy and paste my own instructions here. And since I'm in a new session because I restarted, I don't have the postcards package loaded. So I'm just going to use the namespace postcards, create postcard. And I'm going to use the Hoya template. And this file argument is letting it know that it's going to create the postcard as a file named about.rmd. Perfect. So we have now this postcards page. It populated the about.rmd file. That's what we're looking at now. And so this is a postcards page where it's built with the Hoya template. You can see there's a title, which is the person's name, an image, their picture, and then some social links, and then a brief little bio. And you can see that the JPEG file populated here as well. So that's the actual image that's rendered here. Okay, so now we have the source there. You can see in my get pane that that's what was added here. All right. So this time, build the website. All right. Okay, Allison, we'll do as you say. Okay, so now the trick is that you have to know that it's in the about.rmd, right? Wahoo! Okay, so it worked. Brilliant. Now, instead of having just a simple page that looked just like this, but it was called about, now we actually have an about page that's a true about page. Very cool. And now you can obviously edit this. You can add a new image here. Yesterday I made one for Charlene the emu. I'm just going to leave it with Toby Burns for now. So you should be able to see your new about page. Yes, check. Site navigation, we are going to leave that alone. And now we're going to publish, but we're going to publish with Netlify. So let me go back. I'm going to commit those changes. I'm just going to do it all at once. Add our about page is now a postcard. Commit those. Whoosh. Okay, now let us go. This banner here is always in the way, isn't it? Okay, so refresh. We should see. All right, everything is there. And now you'll notice something really important here. I'm actually pushing the deployed site to my main branch. This is a good workflow to start with. So you can see _site, that's actually the output directory, and that's the output of when we hit that build button, it creates that. And you can feel free to go back if you're ever troubleshooting and come here and say, you know, I'm having some problems, something's kind of sticky with my output. I'm just going to delete _site. And when I click build, and I'll hold my breath because I think I know what I'm doing. Yes, it regenerates _site. And everything looks just the right same. So that's like kind of the brilliance of being able to use code to be able to build your website and output, because as long as you have all the inputs there and everything still builds, which might be a big asterisk, but we're going to stick with it. You can see that I can recreate the entire site. But what I'm actually doing, looks like it regenerated a little bit of my search. Let's see what the diff is down there. It's probably just the time last modified. So I'm going to leave that the way it is. But you can see that _site is what I'm actually previewing locally, and _site is actually what we want to tell Netlify to deploy. So now we need to go over to Netlify, and I get to create a new site. So I'm going to log in, and then my team, new site from GitHub, and O2 postcard Distill should be right there. Perfect. And then again, because I'm not doing any kind of Netlify build here, I'm giving it the HTML files. They're all in a directory. They're all in _site, but I'm not doing any kind of build. So you don't need to have any build settings, but you do have a published directory, and that is _site. Now, if you change that output dir option in your YAML, if you remember how I showed you that in the _site.yaml, if you change that, then you got to change this. So I'm going to go ahead and deploy the site. Ooh, Stoic Bends. Is it already done? Psst, 3 seconds. All right, let's go to preview deploy. Awesome. And we got our site. Now you can obviously change it. You can go back and make edits as you please, but that's a site that's deployed to Netlify, and we've done it. So I am going to finish the job. And I'm going to make a few edits to this just so that people have some kind of context. This is a site made with rmarkdown, the Distill, our package, the postcards, our package, and deploy to Netlify. And I'm actually going to switch over to visual markdown mode because I want to do a rocket. There we go. That's an easy way to insert an emoji. All right. I am going to change the name of this. So if you go over to site settings, so where I was over here in deploys, go over to site settings and you go to change the site name. I've got Stoic Bends, E1F5B1, which is hard to remember. So you can always change this. It does depend on what's available through Netlify. So sometimes you might have to try a few different options. I'm going to be updating my site to be something else. It'll need to be a professional site for somebody. So maybe as a placeholder, I'm going to do Charlene the emu again. I am the only Charlene the emu. I am. All right, so I'm going to save that. Now, again, as happened yesterday when I was showing this, it is not enough to just edit the RMD and hit save and then push your changes to GitHub, because you can see that only the .rmd changed. And what are we deploying to Netlify? We're deploying the actual build site and the underscore site folder. So build website again, build it locally. And then what we shall see, I don't even need to see it. What we shall see is that, see, all I did was change index.rmd. So the only thing that actually changed is index.html. And then again, the search JSON has a modified time again, but I'll just commit everything. Add more info, commit, push, and then we'll see. Yesterday, Netlify was a little bit slow and I ended up filling a lot of time. So I'm not going to be a fool today and wait for it. Let's see. Is it already done? Oh man. Okay. Well, that was super speedy. Let's go. Charlene the emu is done. All right. I'm going to go ahead and go over to Dusty Domains. All right. Oh, how many people? Oh, it looks like some new companies have joined in since yesterday. So these are the charities that Netlify is going to be giving money to: Black Girls Code, STEM Tank, Resilient Coders, and Code 2040, which are all really great organizations. Donating, doing it again. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that I can enter my email address in here. And then my site URL, be sure to include the HTTPS. And I submitted that in 2021. Things are going a lot faster today for me. Let's see, go back to sharing my screen. All right, and I'm done. Check out my site that contributed $250 to charity. Wow, I had no idea. Charlene the emu. Please clap. I just bought a domain and shipped the project in the same dang year. So we're done. We built a website with Distill, the Distill R package. The way to get a little bit more help with Distill is to, let's see, I even forgot that. This was my job. No, it was packages.rstudio.com/distill. That's pretty funny that I've already forgotten what the link was. All right, so this is the Distill website. And you can also go to examples. You can see a lot of website examples here. Many of them also use postcards and have a postcards page in them. These are all really great websites to be able to get inspiration for, and almost all of them have the source code linked. And the cool thing about Distill is that you can usually, let's see if Shannon's, you can usually find their GitHub link at the very top. So you can find the source code, and most of these people are super awesome people in our community, and they're always happy to give people help if you need any help with Distill along the way. It's a really great tool. I'm obviously a co-author on it, so I'm biased, but it's a really great tool for being able to build simple websites without needing to learn too much more other than rmarkdown and RStudio. So I hope this gave you a good jumping off point. I'll say that I also have a blog post about doing exactly this. Let's see, it's called MFEO, Postcards and Distill. So this was a blog post that I wrote December 22nd of last year, right when we introduced this new functionality into Distill. And I was pretty excited about it, and I was testing it out right before my workshop. So feel free to read that as well. That'll give you some good beginner tips too. But I hope this was useful to you, and go dust off some old domains or dust off some new domains and submit them. Thanks for joining me.